The Java util concurrent executor service enables you to execute tasks in parallel in Java. In this video, I will show you how to use Java's executor service. Let me first show you how the executor service works in theory. This diagram shows a thread which executes a sequence of operations. At operation 2, the thread creates a task which is passed to an executor service. The thread then continues with its own sequence of operations, and the executor service starts executing the task in parallel. Here is a code example showing how to use an executor service. First, a new executor service is created using one of the factory methods of the Executors class. Second, a runnable implementation is passed to the execute method of the executor service. The executor service will now start executing this runnable in parallel. Finally, the executor service is shut down. You should not shut down the executor service until you have finished using it, but I will get back to that later in this video. The Java util concurrent package contains two implementations of the executor service interface: the thread pool executor and the scheduled thread pool executor. The easiest way to create a thread pool executor or scheduled thread pool executor is to use one of the factory methods in the Executors class. These methods are shown here. The new single thread executor method creates an executor service containing only a single thread. That means that all tasks passed to this executor service are executed by the same thread. If new tasks are passed to this executor service before it has finished executing the first task, the new tasks are queued up and executed when the executor service finishes the first task. Thus, this executor service executes one task at a time sequentially. The new fixed thread pool method creates an executor service containing a fixed number of threads. All tasks passed to this executor service are executed by one of these threads. The new scheduled thread pool method creates an executor service which can schedule the execution of the task passed to it. This executor service actually implements the scheduled executor service interface. I will not get into more detail about the scheduled executor service in this video, but know that it exists if you should ever need it. If you need more advanced behavior of your executor service, like dynamically increasing and decreasing the number of threads it contains depending on how many tasks it has queued for execution, use the thread pool executor and scheduled thread pool executor class constructors instead. I will not get into more detail about how they work in this video, but know that they exist in case you need them. The executor service interface contains the following 5 methods for passing it tasks for execution. There's an execute method, 2 submit methods, an invoke any method, and an invoke all method. The execute method takes a runnable implementation as parameter. This is the same runnable interface used when passing runnable instances directly to a thread. The runnable will be queued up for execution inside the executor service and executed when the executor service has capacity to do so. The submit method exists in 2 versions, one that takes a runnable as parameter and one that takes a callable as parameter. The submit method, which takes a runnable as parameter, queues the task for execution internally and returns a future object. When the future get method is called, it will return null if the task has been executed correctly. The submit method, which takes a callable as parameter, works in the same way, except the future object returned from it behaves a bit differently. The run method in the runnable interface returns void. Thus, you cannot return a result from the run method. The call method in the callable interface, on the other hand, is capable of returning an object. That means that a task executed by an executor service is capable of returning a result. You obtain that result, which is an object, by calling the get method of the future object returned by the submit method. The future's get method will block until the task is executed and a result is returned. Finally, let me remind you that you have to shut down the executor service once you are finished with it. That is typically when the application shuts down, or if you just don't have any more parallel tasks to execute. I will not get into detail about the invoke any and invoke all methods of the executor service in this video. If you watch this video on YouTube, the link in the description below the video will take you to my executor service tutorial, which contains more detail about these 2 methods. That is all I have to say about the Java util concurrent executor service in this video. Again, if you click the link below the video, you will be taken to my executor service tutorial, which contains more details as well as copy-paste ready code examples.